Welcome, everybody, to this 2023 energy report. Um, First, I'm going to tell everybody about my gridwork journey because I feel like everything that I experienced was a preview. Like, we had so many initiations, crazy stuff was happening all over the place. And as we were going through these things as a family, I can't help but feel like it was a little preview of what was about to happen for the next year, the next 5 years, because it really feels like planet Earth has been literally heating up with all these solar energy, solar codes, solar activity that's just riling everything up, preparing us for massive transformation. And we know that we have point A, which is where humanity is at right now. And we have point B, which is what we're all trying to create, heaven on earth. This new earth where everyone is happy and creatively fulfilled, and we're all living in this proverbial heaven on earth. And if that's point B, then it means that so many things are going to have to transform in order for that to materialize as a 3D reality. How we educate our children, how we go about our energy creation, like power, electricity, how we make money, how we support civilizations, government systems, all of the things. Every facet of civilization is going to have to transform in order for this entirely new system operation to be installed. And so I feel like, the reality is constantly changing if you think about it, right? Since the dawn of time, civilization has changed many times over in the last hundreds and hundreds of years in our current cycle, our current seating. So in the Middle Ages, and then the Enlightenment eras, and then the Industrial Revolution, this civilization really has been evolving and changing a lot. And I feel like we are seeing definitely just the next iteration. I feel like that continuity is really important for us to tap into, which is why studying Earth history is actually super interesting. I know that in the New Age, we're like, oh, it's all the false matrix, it's all the cabal, it's not that, it's all fake. And part of that is true. But the other part of it that is, that we can't just throw out the window is the fact that reality changes in a continuous way, right? When you think about a child growing up, it's not like you one day grow up and they're just a fully grown person. I'm looking at Kara and she's making incremental changes every single day. And then all of a sudden, I blink and she's a big baby. But really, it's been, every minute that's passing by, her brain is changing, her limbs are growing, her cells are developing. And so it's the same thing with a civilization, right? All of those things take so much time because it's part of our collective brain that is developing. And so there are things that are corrupting that brain, like how we have junk food and bad TV that is coagulating and calcifying our brain. Same thing is happening on the collective level, where certain programs like religions and institutions, they're stunting the proper growth, the proper crystallization, the proper evolution of humanity. And yet, that continuous process of evolution is how reality changes. And this is really important for us to pay attention to because it really gives a lot of power to the individual cells and what the cells are capable of in as far as impacting the rest of the society. And that by that I really mean us, the individuals, the human beings. We are each a cell of the human civilization. And if we realize that God or fortune favors the bold, or those who are crazy enough to change the world are the ones that do, right? The chosen ones are the ones who choose. This is really all placing that power in our hands of saying, look, we have this very exciting opportunity. Look at all the things that has happened in the society so far to bring us to this point. For me to be talking on this, 1080p webcam, streaming to you live from my house, and for all 200 people that are on here right now, gathering and enjoying this moment together, so many things had to have happened. The fall of certain monarchies and systems that were very oppressive, governmental systems. We might think that the government that we have right now is very oppressive and bad, but it was a lot worse 200 years ago when the king could just say, well, just kill that guy and chop off his head and that'll be that, right? So from the tyrannical monarchies to we apparently have democracy, this has been a long time of humanity fighting for freedom, fighting for what is truly our destiny. And that fight for truly what is ours also carves us in a way. When we fight for what we truly believe in, we're solidifying those virtues in our spirit. And this is why oftentimes difficulty, trials and tribulation, the dark nights of the soul, they're really a cinematic and intrinsic and such an important part of the hero's journey, of the cinema of our life. So all of that is what's leading up to this transition into 2023, when we have some major astrological movements that are undertoning this theme of revolution. And a part of revolution, you will always see people protesting, rioting, standing up for what they believe in, standing up to the things that are not working and taking a stand for what they truly want. And I think that this is a really important energy, because this is the way that, again, evolution actually can happen, that transformation can actually happen. And a part of that upheaval is that we're going to experience probably difficulty. And by we, I mean a humanity. And I think a lot of light workers will be experiencing almost a different timeline. And this is where the bifurcation will get really interesting. So I experienced this a lot on my trip, where I felt like there were two simultaneous realities unfolding. There was what the masses was experiencing, and then there was almost like this magic carpet that would come out of nowhere and sweep me into this energy stream that would take me. It was like everybody was trapped in Machu Picchu and they were trying to get away. They were trying to get out. They were trying to get home. They were stuck there. They couldn't wait to get away from Machu Picchu. And here I was trying to get in there when, gosh, everybody's trying to get out of this country. And I knew that this was my mission. I had to get to Machu Picchu, the Stargate, for the solstice. This was a directive that I received all the way back in June, when of course none of this was happening. So I knew that I had to get to Machu Picchu to do a specific series of activations in that Stargate and bring in what the G's were calling the Aurora platforms, working with the crystalline caverns inside of those mountains that are acting as an ascension host, meaning they're holding a certain architecture, a certain frequency of energy for the planet, holding this frequency so that it can be accessible. And so it's actually holding the stability and this higher consciousness energy for the planet, which is the role of the starseeds. A lot of us are actually facilitating this in our own bodies as well. And so, of course, places like Machu Picchu are supporting people like us by holding that frequency. And if we're ever kind of shaky or we're having a hard day, we can just lean into the stability of those mountains that are rarely inundated by EMFs or, chaos energy. They're very stable in their light technologies, and we can actually just tap into those places and find our connection and grounding in holding these aurora systems, aurora passageways for the planet. So there were energies coming in that were intended for the clearing of the Vatican. And I did see that the old Pope has died today, this morning. That was very interesting. I feel like that's like the crowning moment of 2022. It makes a lot of sense. He was 95 years old, so definitely probably died of old age. I didn't look too much into it. I received a couple of messages this morning, people telling me that the old Pope, this is not the current Pope, but the Pope before, he indeed has transitioned. Of course, energetically on a collective consciousness level, we are seeing this resolution of an old consciousness, because I have personal friends that have personally met this current pope and say that he has been interested in plant medicine and things like that. And so it's very interesting that this old pope energy has died right at the end of 2022. This is kind of what we were clearing out through the Machu Picchu Vatican ceremonies. Um, it was really intense because the Vatican is literally holding so much. When you think about this planetary civilization, there are a few religions that are holding the spiritual pillars. I think the Dalai Lama is one of these characters that hold a lot of spiritual power. When people think about like the spiritual hierarchy on earth, they might think the Dalai Lama is one of the most spiritually powerful representatives on the planet, and they might think that the Pope is another one of these people. So on a collective planetary civilization kind of perspective, the Vatican is holding that position in the collective consciousness, even though we know that it's the inversion, right? So I really felt like Machu Picchu is truly holding that vibration. When you think about all the sacred sites in the world, I think there are mountains in China that are holding this vibration, and of course, Nepal. But I do feel like Machu Picchu is one of these true cathedral, planetary, spiritual centers that are holding the true connection to source, current ascension gateways, frequencies. So it's kind of like taking that true template Stargate and then collapsing the false Stargate in the Vatican. And that's the kind of work we were doing. You can access the recording of that ceremony actually in the Earthstar Academy archives. We had like 160 people live on the call, and we did some really intense work that day. Tapping into the Vatican energy is very intense because there's just so many layers of evil all stuck on top of each other, and even down to the name, the Vatican, which actually comes from this ancient word, Vatica, who was the goddess that was the goddess of the underworld and the goddess of fertility to a older civilization that once lived in that area, who are the Etruscans. So they were obviously a serpent worshipping, and by serpent worshipping, and this will even clear out so much of this, because the serpent really is actually representative of the Pachamama spirit, the Garden of Eden herself. So you can see that there's so many inversions of symbolism and in the demonization of the ancient primordial reptilian serpent energy, which is the primordial creation energy. When you start to commune with the earth, you will see, the mountains shapeshift into the faces of giant serpents, because the serpentine energy is the ley lines running around the earth. The serpentine energy is the life force that gives birth to all of life on earth. So this is why there are serpent worshipping, goddess worshipping civilizations all over the earth before the fall, before the severance, before the separation, before the damnation of the feminine on this planet. And so before the Vatican or the Roman Catholic Church came and just plopped the Vatican on top of this very powerful place, it used to be a place of goddess serpent worship. Okay, and so this goddess, her name was literally Vatica. You can search that up. And they literally just inverted or stole her glory, stole her energy, plopped their church on top of this hill and built the Vatican. So that was one of the first. It was also built, through, I think it was founded on like sibling murder. I don't know much about that part of the history. I'm sure you can look it up if you'd like to. But so there's a lot there with the serpent. The serpent energy was literally with me this whole journey. We talk about the dragon lines, right? The original dragon schools of knowledge of creation. This was the source of the ancient Taoists, the ancient South American tribes. And clearly, even the ancient Italian tribal people, they were all tapped into this one thing because all they had to do was literally connect in with the soul of the earth and go to these power places, which they can probably feel with their bodies. When you are kind of tuned into the subtle energy field, you can tell the difference of the energy between locations. And so there are many maps, even the Cathars, they had knowledge of the ley lines, same as Native Americans, right? So these ley lines, when you are on them, you will start to feel the intelligence and the knowledge that is apparent in the earth. The earth has these teachings of organic abundance and creation that it was sharing with people, then they were doing a lot of these honoring rituals, creating sacred sites in places where these ley lines intersected. So this is the places where you will find ancient effigies and ancient portals, ancient statues, temples. And, the Roman Catholic Church really just came around and just built churches on top of all these places. And I think they knew what they were doing because essentially they created a siphoning grid of inverting and siphoning that life force energy. And this is all aspects of the parasitic system that has occurred that includes the parasitic system of the false matrix that is now imprisoning human consciousness and siphoning that creation energy from human beings, just as it is doing to animals and the living earth herself. Okay, so that is what the humans are now revolting and awakening from. I think that over the last year, the grid workers were so active. I mean, when I was up on Machu Picchu, I connected with several other guardian gatekeepers who were in very auspicious places around the planet, in Hawaii, in Mount Shasta, in the Vatican. And basically, there were guardians on site in so many of these stargates, and we were all bringing in simultaneously the same currents, the same light technology. And so, as these heavenly currents are arriving both through the solar rays and through the people that are on the ground, inevitably the mind control programming and the technologies, they're literally just flying off people. They're no longer a vibrational match for the reality, they just literally can't exist. So, we see this in the protests that are happening in China, right? Unforeseen protests. Like, people are horrified of the government in China. I grew up there. I can see it in my mother because they've just done horrendous things. Imagine you just disagree with what the government is saying and you literally just say one little comment, and that allows the government to come in and take you off to jail, and you are there literally getting tortured for years. Like, this is the stuff that is normal. It's what is culturally the reality there in China. So when I was waking up and I would talk to my mom about these things, like, I could literally feel the fear in her. She was afraid that the government might be able to hear her thoughts if she thought anything negative about the government, right? This is the level of tyranny that people have experienced in China. So it's very rare that you will see people say negative things about the government, and even, not listening to government mandates and things like this. So I don't know if people have been following what's going on in China, but basically they've been having these very extreme lockdowns. Even until recently, people were literally like welded inside their apartments. There's been apartment fires where people can't get out because their doors have literally been welded shut by the police to quarantine people, in an effort to stall coronavirus. And so, yeah, people have had enough. People have starved to death, and they literally are flooding the streets saying, down with the CCP. And this is just, I hope my channel doesn't get censored after this, but this is really intense stuff. And that stuff, is happening, A, because people are getting pushed to the limit, but B, because the vibration on the planet is raising to a point where logic and reality, it's like the wool is starting to dissolve from people's third eyes, and this fire for what we truly deserve, what we really want, standing up for what we believe in, putting our foot down. This energy is finally overriding the fear, the complacency. And so, this is also why the grid work is so important and so powerful, because we're literally working directly with the energetics of the collective consciousness. What is feeding the collective consciousness is the life force, right? It's like we're all literally, or let's say like oxygen. So we're all literally being nourished by the same field of energy. And so when we work with the earth energy and we remove these negative wormholes and we're clearing the grids and we're installing new consciousness, that is getting dispersed to every single person on the planet through the gateway systems. And of course, the way that you do high level grid work is by amplifying and turning your own DNA on so that you're creating higher levels of creation energy, consciousness energy. So you can be a very powerful transmitter, transducer, conduit, acupuncture needle, right? The more crystalline your field, the higher level missions you're going to be given, because they're literally using your channel as an insertion site, as an anchoring site, as a stability site for what is happening on a planetary level. So, of course, as multidimensional beings, we can work in all of these different realms. And so the grid work is one of these realms, and then building physical, practical solutions that people can take and make use of in real life is another one of those facets of the reality. So, okay. So we landed in Peru on December 12th, I think. Let's just see if that was a Monday. Yeah, so December 12th, on the 12/12. And this was a Monday. And what happened was we were flying in from Bolivia. So we landed in Lima. And then in the Lima airport, we had like a 5-hour layover. So we're just sitting there waiting for the airplane. The airport is an absolute zoo, okay? And then all of a sudden on the TV, of course, we don't understand Spanish that much, but I just see like state of emergency. And their, I guess, vice president had just been named president. And she was declaring a state of emergency because of this mass riots that had started happening, because just the day before, their president was arrested and put in jail. And that president, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he probably was not like a New World Order puppet. He was probably, because the people love him a lot because he was like a rural school teacher, which a lot of people associate with, right? There are a lot of poverty in Peru, a lot of farmers, people that are living on the outskirts, the Aboriginals. They really connected with this president. Now, Congress apparently has been trying to get this president out. People think that Congress is super corrupted. I bet the Congress was trying to get this president out. So the president tried to dissolve Congress, and they basically arrested him and put him in jail. And then that's why people started protesting, because they wanted their old president back, or they wanted the option to vote for a new president. And the government, the vice president who was sworn in as president, and the Congress just would not allow this. Now, I have never seen any protests like this, because they were putting boulders the size of people and tree trunks that are taller than me into the roads, right? All between the cities, there were these giant boulders. Machu Picchu is Peru's, one of Peru's highest income earners, right, through tourism. I think they make like $6 million a year alone from Machu Picchu. So people were putting these giant boulders on the train tracks. They broke the train tracks and threw parts of it in the river. I mean, people were very angry. And so literally hours after that, we were able to fly to Cusco. We drove about an hour to our Airbnb on the outskirts of Pisac. And basically, as soon as we got to our Airbnb, the Cusco airport shut down, as well as all of the roads in and out of our town. And this continued for a week. So all the stores were shut down. I mean, we were lucky because we were probably in one of the safest places, honestly, in Peru. Pisac was a very peaceful little town. We didn't really go outside for a week. Our Airbnb host was very kind, and we were trying to get groceries, and literally, like, they were sneaking us through the back door of the grocery store because they didn't want other people to see that they were open. And it's like when we were leaving, they were looking down the street to make sure there was nobody there and sneaking us out the side door. So we were sitting there for a week, um, which gave us a lot of time actually to sit with the codes, to sit with all of the energy that was coming in, to amply prepare for our mission. Honestly, traveling a lot with an 8-month old is exhausting. And so I feel like if the lockdowns were not happening, we probably would have tried to go out and seen a lot of stuff. But this really forced us, it really just grounded us in our Airbnb. We couldn't go anywhere. And then we started seeing the news, right? The railroads are blocked, they're destroyed. There are 500 tourists stuck at Aguas Calientes, which is like the little town at the foot of the mountains of Machu Picchu. And they literally couldn't get out for like a week. And so we were sitting, like every day was passing by. We're like, geez, are we actually going to make it there? And the whole time, actually, Shane and I both felt very peaceful. Like we knew everything was happening exactly as it needed to. And we felt very optimistic, even though the reality itself showed no signs of that. Just because of the severity of the protesting. So finally, the 19th rolled around. This is 6 days after we landed there. On the 16th, we finally hear that these tourists that were stuck there were rescued, and that the trains are kind of starting to run again, even though they would open them and then the boulders would be placed back on, and like the roads were still full of blockades. We had no idea how we were gonna get there, but there was this peace inside of us, and we knew what our mission was. We knew how important it was for us to get there. And yeah, I'm gonna just be honest, there were definitely little parts of me that were doubting. Like, am I crazy? Did I make all this up in my head? Like, who am I to think that, I'm supposed to be up at Machu Picchu for this freaking solstice? Like, the aliens are talking to me and they want me to insert these codes into the planet, especially with what was happening in real life. But yes, major Hieros coding. I feel like what we're experiencing, like subsequently, I witnessed a lot of hieroscamic union healing, right? On the 28th, all the way till now, people are reporting of major Lyran war memories being cleared, DNAs healing, all this stuff. I feel like it was so important for us, for all of us, to have been in those places on the solstice. Finally, night of the 19th, we text our Airbnb guy asking if we can get out. He finds us this wizard of a taxi driver, and it literally took us 3 hours, what regularly would have been an hour drive, to get to Olen Tetambo, where the train leaves for Machu Picchu. And on our way there, we literally had to like bribe people and move things off the road. I mean, Shane was getting out of the car and moving giant boulders off the street so that we could drive around these blockades so we could get to where we were going. And then everything that could have gone wrong did, but then was immediately resolved. I mean, it literally felt like we had this laser focus. We needed to go to this place, and then because of our faith, we trusted in God and our directive so much. Because, like, at any point, we could have just been like, okay, it's time. Maybe we should go home. Maybe this is dangerous. Maybe, this is not the right time. Maybe, like, we're just crazy. Maybe we should just not do this. But every single time, what felt the most true in our hearts was that we needed to be on that mountain. It was important for our personal growth and also literally for the energy planetary grid systems for the next 10 years. Like, what was happening was really, really, really important. And if God was willing for this to happen, then there was going to be a way. And so literally we were stopped like 10 times on our drive to this town. And every single time it was like the sea just parted. Rocks were taken off the road. Drunk people were bribed. Whatever needed to happen, it happened. And then Finally, we get to the train station. It's the 20th now. The next morning, we're at the train station. And of course, in the morning, they're like, sorry, we're not sure when the train's going to leave. The protesters are back. They placed the rocks on the train tracks. And we looked at each other and we're like, no, we're leaving. Like, we have to get there. So we were just going to sit there and wait. And within like half an hour, the lady came out and was like, yeah, so everything's good. The train's leaving in half an hour. And we just looked at each other like, like you think about giant rocks on railways, right? Like protesters being there, like negotiations were just happening and God was just creating a way. We get on the train, we get to Aguas Calientes, and we couldn't believe we were there, right? It was the solstice the next day. We literally had no idea if we are going to make it this whole week, and finally we're there. And the next morning, we go to the bus station to go up to the mountain, and we realize that I didn't have a bus ticket. And anyway, apparently I have invisibility cloaks, and somehow it just got on the bus. Of course, people were like, Shane had his bus ticket on his phone, and the lady was looking at bus tickets, so he was just showing his bus ticket, and he exited the app, opened the app again, and showed his ticket again. And next thing I know, we were all on the bus. So finally, we are up on the mountain. It's the solstice. The energy is crazy, and there's nobody there. Okay, there was maybe 2 busfuls of people up on Machu Picchu. We felt like we literally had the place to ourselves, and I feel like that was a major part of it, because normally Machu Picchu allows like 500 people up to the top, and you have to understand, when we got there, people couldn't even buy a ticket to go up there because the lady that is head of this program quit as, I guess, part of the protest. So people couldn't even buy a ticket to go up on the day we were going up there, and we of course had our ticket from months ago for that date. And it just all worked out so unbelievably beyond our wildest imagination that we were up there. I had 3 good hours with the mountain with barely anyone around me. Shane actually hiked up to one of the highest peaks called Huayna Picchu, which is impossible to do with a baby. I was able to do that hike years ago. So he went up there. He was bringing in some major, original masculine architecture, which was really coming in to overwrite both the false king of tyranny genetic coding as well as the trauma that incurred, because so many of us now have resistance towards our inner masculine energy, right? Like even in society, we're like, oh, masculinity is toxic, or any sign of masculinity is really under attack. So the original true masculine templating, he was just bringing it through the top of Huayna Picchu while I was down in the valley working with kind of more the crystalline caverns. Shane literally shaved his head at the top of the mountain. He had a great time. He said he shape-shifted into an eagle. So overall, that mission, we were so elated just to have made it. I feel like we just went through so many moments of doubt and intensity, and really feeling like there were 2 timelines or 2 realities that were playing out. And this is one of the signs of the bifurcation, right? I feel like this is an energy that is going to go into 2023 and even beyond, because a lot of people are going to be waking up. There's this funny meme going around where there's 2 little girls, and one little girl's like puking in the toilet and the other little girl's like holding its hair. And so I feel like it's going to be like people that have woken up already. We've already gone through that dark night of the soul. Like the last 10 years, like if you're awake right now, you already went through the holy crap, I was poisoned since the time I was born. And you had to pick yourself up, find the strength to continue living and to purify yourself and to devote yourself to a spiritual path so you can make it out of that, darkness. So I feel like for many of us, we are finally peeking our heads up into the clouds and landing in our higher timeline, landing in our true soul's essence, landing in the gifts that we left ourselves in the core of our soul before we incarnated down here. Our gifts, our genius, our ideas, our businesses, our offerings, our creativity, all of those things. We've excavated ourselves so much that we're finally coming in touch with ourselves. And for the next 2 years, we're going to be continuing to do that, right? While the collective is going to be waking up, and the circumstance under which the collective wakes up may be turbulent. And we can't really change that. Sometimes turbulence and chaos. I mean, I always vote for the most peaceful timeline possible when we're voting for timelines upstairs. I'm never the one to say, okay, let's just have major cataclysms and whatever. So I think there's going to be minor cataclysms. And by cataclysm, I really just mean they're really going to be cataclysms of the soul. Like when people find out more about the cabal and more about the human trafficking, they are going to be devastated. Okay, human beings are such sensitive beings, which is why it's so hard for people to wake up, right? Like in order for their consciousness to accept such heinous things, they would have to go through such an initiation and a bardos of their own soul. And that is a very painful thing. So it's much easier to just reject those things, but it's going to be so obvious at some point that they're not going to be able to reject it anymore. Okay? And that is when we're going to go through kind of a collective dark night of the soul that the Lightworker family has already gone through. And so that is what is going to give us this ability, though, to really hold space in a really good way. This is a time for us to remember that this is only a phase, okay? Which brings us into the 2023 energy forecast. So 2023, I feel, is really 2024 part 1. Just like how 2022 is really like 2022, 2020 replay or upgraded spiral. Okay. The reason I say that is because the next 2 years we're in this major activation cycle. There is a lot of evidence that something major is building up till to the end of 2024. Okay, the intel that I've received is we have this new ley line system that has been coming online. We've been building it. There's been new lines coming online every few years. But what's happening is that these ley lines are coming on and then they're tapering off. And they're coming on, they're tapering off. It's kind of like we're getting used to this new energy. And it's the same thing with the solar. If you look at the solar activity charts, they kind of is this curve, right? If the solar activity just got turned on all the way, first of all, people would be purging, we would be crazy, we would see a lot of chaos and neuroticism, way more than we see now, because they would just be a shock to our system. So we see this incremental increase in this activation cycle, in the level of higher consciousness that is slowly, it's kind of like when you're, in the bath and it gets a little cold, so you add a little bit of hot water, and it's like an incremental increase, so you're not just, being burned by the hot water. So the consciousness is incrementally increasing both through the sun, through the solar activity, through the gamma radiation from space, and through the ley lines that are newly coming online. These are the dragon lines. We call them dragon lines because they're these very wide major ley lines that are 2-3 times wider than any ley line that was discovered previously, and these are scientifically measured. Okay, so yep, we've been discovering these new ley lines that are massive. They call them dragon lines because, again, of that massive crystalline serpentine Mother Earth energy. They are the biggest. They have the highest influence on human consciousness. And many of them are activated by cosmic energy. They're impacted by cosmic energy. You can see these lines interact, and they maybe increase in size or amplitude when they interact with certain stellar alignments or solar activity. It's very interesting. It's very scientific. So you can find more of that scientific work. Somebody amazing that's doing that work, his name is Rory Duff. I think you can find his little handbook called like Earth Leyline Systems or something. I mean, this man spent 30 somewhat years dowsing and scientifically discovering ley lines. He's got a very high success record because he has a 100% success rate in finding underground water through dowsing. So, very successful scientific researcher of these things. He actually is the official discoverer of these dragon lines. And when I first found his book last year, I saw, so for many years I've been working on this one dragon line that goes across the United States. Those of you that have been following my work for a while, you know that I did these 2 gridwork tours 2 years in a row working on this new dragon line that was across the US. Of course, when I found this book, there it was in the book. I was like, wow, this is so weird to be scientifically validated in that way. So we've had a couple of conversations, and we both came to this conclusion on our own. Me, more just working with the energetics of the earth, and him more measuring scientifically the velocity of which these lines are coming on. We both independently arrived at this conclusion that these dragon lines are going to come online completely at the end of 2024. And again, the reason why this happens is so that people are not just totally overwhelmed and there's absolute chaos ensues, is so that people are getting a little bit taste of this higher energy, a little bit of this higher energy, and then eventually we get used to it and we can sustain this energy continuously. Now, once the grids come online continuously, forever, once the grid systems come online completely, this will then incur a planetary awakening all on its own. So you think once the grids come online, it's going to constantly be feeding people this vibration and this level of consciousness. We're such a small piece of the earth, right? Do you really think that these TVs and the 5G towers, that they're going to be able to amplify a frequency that is more impactful than these dragon lines that are all around the earth, that are so wide and high in amplitude? No chance. It's going to become the highest overriding frequency wave of consciousness, right? And so the end of 2024, a major awakening is going to happen. So this is also seen in the astrology because Pluto is a planet that deeply represents the primordial collective consciousness or collective subconscious, as though deep ocean of consciousness. Okay, and so Pluto, when Pluto changes signs, it is kind of a big deal because, Pluto runs around the sun in kind of an elliptical, so it's an oval, so it spends a different amount of time in each sign. So the last time Pluto changed signs was back in 2008, which is when I started high school, I believe. Okay. So, I feel like that was really the time when I was first waking up, because I had depression and I had all these health issues, and that's what led me into discovering the healthcare system is absolutely not pro-human, and that's what led to the rest of my awakening. So I invite you to think back to what was going on in your life in 2008, and if there are common themes and issues and lessons, patterns that you've been dealing with since that time. So understanding that, as Pluto is transiting out of Capricorn and into Aquarius, where it will be for the next 20 years, we look back and realize, first of all, it takes 248 years for Pluto to make its way around the entire astrological system. 250 years is about the age of America. So we know that America is going through their Pluto return at the moment. And I feel like America is really a symbol of modern civilization. The reason why I feel that way is because I feel like the democratic system of America was a major timeline stamp on the collective consciousness of the planet. Of course, this was also the time of the French Revolution, which of course is a huge part of this as well. So what we're seeing is that 250 years ago, we had the French Revolution, we saw the Enlightenment, we saw the Industrial Revolution. Human consciousness was changed forever. Okay, this is when we really started utilizing our consciousness to create technologies that was lifting humanity out of an entire way of existing, which is to say we're creating more. Okay, I feel like everything in society is evolving towards humans moving into our creative destiny, which is to say this ability to live out a life that is a reflection of our true divine source. I don't think that anyone's purpose is to work at Tim Hortons, okay, for 40 hours a week, which some people have to do right now. I don't think that it's in anyone's creative destiny or highest destiny to work in, a factory or be a construction worker, but we need those things to be done in a certain phase of our building a civilization. So it's concurrent. As the consciousness is increasing on the planet, we are building certain pieces because, again, we're all one. We're one super organism, right? One planet, just like an ant colony. Really think about this in a macro way. So 250 years ago, when Pluto was going into Aquarius, the last time Pluto was going to Aquarius, we saw this massive revolution or transformation of human civilization from, more uncivilized and tyrannical. Hygiene was different, the roads were different, transportation was different, everything was at a lower efficiency, a lower capability. Okay, and we saw then the Industrial Revolution. As Pluto went into Aquarius, we saw the French Revolution, we saw the establishment of the American Constitution, which spoke about human rights. Now, we understand that 250 years ago, this iteration is not perfect, okay? We're not saying that everything about America was, perfect, but I think sometimes this New Age brain virus makes us go, oh, everything's the cabal or everything's evil, nothing is. And it's like, okay, that's just not how reality works. When you look at civilization 500 years ago, the American Constitution, as it was in the consciousness 250 years ago, was revolutionary. Is it perfect? No. Does it still enslave people? Yes. Is it hijacked at this point? Absolutely. Is it going to be the system that we come up with for the architecture of heaven on earth? It isn't. But compared to the rest of the world and in our grand evolutionary journey, it was truly revolutionary for the establishment and the focus on human freedom, which allowed for humans to actually move into a higher level of genius and creativity. Okay, so that's what happened the last time Pluto came into Aquarius, and Pluto is about to go into Aquarius again. It is actually going to move into Aquarius, I believe, in March, but don't quote me on that. But it's not going to stay in Aquarius. It's going to kind of move back into Capricorn and kind of do this kind of wobble until 2024. Until 2024, which is when it will finally move into Aquarius and stay there for 20 years, which is about the length. When you look at all the events that unfolded in the French Revolution, it was about 20 years. This is really significant because I'm always asking you guys to think about the long range vision, right? New Earth is not going to happen in a day, just like humans didn't evolve, civilization in a day. We've really been hacking away at intelligence, at building of civilization, building of possibility, building of creative potential for hundreds and hundreds of years. It just so happens that we're living in truly an auspicious time where so much of this revolutionary fire can happen. Okay, so we're thinking about new ways that Aquarius is very much about the intellect, about consciousness, about technology. It's a very Atlantean or a high Atlantean energy where we use our intellect to create technologies that are, when it's in alignment, supportive of life, supportive and in honor of making life better for all of creation. That's the energy that it's supposed to be. Of course, in the tyrannical, fallen architecture, it becomes, tyranny and control and using technology to enslave people and all that stuff. But in its highest consciousness, it is realizing that technology is meant to help humanity in a way that, I think about I'm able to make this amazing music. I think about all the music that I love. Well, it could not have been made without guitars or pianos or, these days with computers, right? Thinking about how when we're in the cave days and there's all these petrographs, well, now you have Procreate on your iPad, and the paintings that people are able to create on that is incomparable. It's a whole different octave of creative consciousness than the cave paintings, right? And so we're heading into another phase of massive consciousness. It's jumping an octave. Pluto is jumping an octave of consciousness into building new technologies that will bring us into heaven on earth. Essentially, we're graduating into this planetary civilization. Now, there's a couple things that are happening here. Obviously, there are people that are trying to direct the timeline a certain way, and these beings have been meddling with the trajectory of humanity for a long time. We think about how Yeshua, who is our beloved star brother from Sirius, how we've already been here throughout time to seed consciousness, seed technologies to support the flow and the trajectory and the timeline of humanity into the optimal evolutionary direction, which is that eventually humans become literal avatars and creators and embodiments of source creation, right? That's the ultimate destination, or where evolution is ultimately taking us. So in order for that to happen, maybe it's part of the timeline for technology to support humanity in certain ways, like building roads or building cars or, free energy. Of course, high technology, this energy of Pluto going to Aquarius, this is probably the time when inventions are going to come through, like free energy, like levitating cars, like anti-gravity, right? Because we're thinking like 250 years ago, to think that we're going to have cars and TVs and all of that is unimaginable. And it's the same thing, except technology is developing at such an exponential kind of speed. So the next 20 years, by the end of this 20 years, we are going to see an entirely different civilization just based on what kind of support humans are going to have to really live in their highest potential, to have the freedom to be able to express what is inside of them, to actually fully discover the creativity and the uniqueness that is inside of our souls, which at this point on earth is really still a privilege, right? I'm thinking about my parents. They don't have really that privilege of seeking what is inside of them, and this is what was seeded through America, right? This is really what America was trying to create, even though consciousness on the earth was not in support of that consciousness fully just yet. Is this, right? The American dream in its highest expression is really about each soul having the ability to create the life that they are here to live, to bring through the legacy that they are here to bring, to give them the freedom that as long as they devoted themselves and worked hard, that they could create something that was going to be good for their families. Now, of course, once again, that consciousness was not able to fully take place and fully land on the earth, but this is where we're all going. We want every human being on earth to have the freedom to be able to fully excavate and discover the genius and express that genius and express that creativity. And in order for us to have that, we're creating technologies, creating infrastructure so that we can enjoy this planet now. I think that over the next 20 years, of course, as we tap into our genius, which is where the solutions are, because when we think about the collapse of ecology on this planet, I believe that healing can occur rapidly. Okay, nature is amazing. You leave your yard alone for 6 months and it's overgrown, right? So I believe in the next, couple of years, 20 years, new technologies are going to come through, new solutions and systems are going to come through. And this is basically our job, right? And this is why I don't like to sit around and think, oh, is that person, like, for example, a very hot topic these days is Elon. They're like, is Elon evil? Is Elon not evil? Who the heck cares? I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that we can look up to as far as Elon, and he's someone that, has built a massive system that is changing the world. You don't like him? Great. Use that dislike to fuel your own fire so that you can create systems that will benefit the whole planet. Okay, that's really all it is. If you don't like how somebody's doing things, do it better. Because this planet, evolution, it is, again, fortune favors the bold. Those who are crazy enough to believe they're going to change the world will. And these are the starseeds, right? We have to start believing in the power that is within us. Realizing that because we're here, this changes everything. All right? Looking outwards at how the world is going is missing the numerical component that you exist. Okay, you're the wild card. When you start to come online and channel genius, literally the prophecies of living creation will begin to manifest, and it will require for us all to come into that. And here's the other thing is that, if you're watching this, if you have a technology that you're watching this on right now, then you are probably a part of the 1% or the most lucky or privileged people on this planet. Meaning you're the one that is capable of finding a way to fulfilling your dream, fulfilling your soul's highest destiny, bringing through creational genius. This is all available to you. All you have to do is realize that, you can, and you can triangulate through figuring out what you're passionate about, what you love about the world, what you want to devote your time and energy to, and really building your skills so that you can truly bring value and bring benefit, benevolence into the world. Okay, so I think that we have this next 2 years. Let's see. So the Pluto Aquarius energy. Okay, yeah. So yeah, Pluto's going to be in Aquarius until 2044. So 2022, 2044, I guess 22 years. Okay, we think that's a long time, but ultimately in the grand scheme of things is not a long time. So the next couple of years is a really good time to triangulate in your life work. If you don't know what your life purpose is, there has never been a better time for you to just, maybe that could be your 2023 year's goal. All you have to do is tell the universe, I want to know what my life purpose is. And then you just send it out into the world and pay attention. You'd be surprised, okay? The universe can sometimes literally slam a pie in our face. It'll be so obvious. If you don't know what brings your soul joy, what lights your fire, what you can literally devote 50 years of your life to doing. Okay, and for me, that is learning about the bioenergetic system, learning about shamanism, learning about how consciousness disease happens and how to cure it. My dream is to discover the cure for pedophilia. And I was shown on my gridwork journey that this frequency will be revealed to me, and that, I do plan on funding clinical trials for the cure. And you might ask, why are you focusing on them and not, people that have been traumatized? Well, I think through my own healing, I've already discovered how to support trauma survivors of pedophilia. I feel like I've gotten a pretty good understanding of, demonic soul binds and somatic healing and sexual healing. I feel like I'm at a place where I can put together the healing protocol for sexual abuse. But as far as, the disease at the root, if there are no pedophiles, then there's not going to be people that are victimized by them. What are we going to do about them? Do we throw them in jail? Do we kill them? Ultimately, I believe in my core, architecture of reality that pedophilia is a disease of consciousness, And I don't believe that is organic to original consciousness. And if I believe that at the core of every soul is a spark of original creation, then there must be a cure for this disease. And that's kind of the line of thought or the downloads that I've been receiving. I have been tracking this energy. It's probably going to be another 5 to 10 years before I come to any big conclusion. But I'm just sharing this with you because it's okay to dream and to have a big goal and aspiration. Find the thing you want to create a solution for. There's no lack of problems in this world, and you can bring through the solution because you're a genius. And if you're truly interested in it, you and the universe will do this dance. I mean, I'm constantly being brought pieces, right? I tell the universe, look, I will do whatever it takes for me to be useful to creation. And synchronously, me being useful and living out my highest timeline is also what is the most joyful and thrilling for me. This is how the original creational architecture of the universe works. Divine will, or perfect universal creation physics, is that you living in your highest timeline is the timeline that is also the best for everyone. And so there is a way for that architecture to land, and it is through your life, through your body, through your experience. And so obviously this is something that it is a fire in me. It's like I will stay up all night and raise a baby, but still devote any little minute that I have to meditating, learning, doing sessions, healing, reading the energies, downloading information, studying pedophiles, whatever it is I got to do, whatever I'm guided to do in the moment. And I can do it for the next 50 years if that's what it took for me to reach my goal. And there's no part that's like, oh, I got to wake up and do this today. It's like there is a momentum. There is something carrying me. And what is that energy that's carrying me is passion, I guess, is my soul's destiny. Once you get into the flow of that mission, it carries you through all trials, all tribulation, all blockades on the road, all difficulty that may occur. I mean, we got home and there was a friggin' blizzard, right? The worst storm Canada has seen in a really long time. And Shane freaking drives out into the night. He took him 14 hours to get home, what regularly would be a 4.5 hour drive. And the whole time he's just getting downloads about that still center taking you home. There was like 50 cars on the road, just like in the ditch, broken down. Some people literally died in their cars. This is how serious this was. And I feel like this was another symbol of the next period of time, is that tunnel of focus, right? People are in the ditch. There's a crazy storm happening. What is your focus? What are you doing? Because time will go by with or without you. The planet is going to change. Things are going to shift. People are going to wake up. People are going to protest. All of this external things will continue to happen with or without you being focused on you. So what are you doing with your life force, with your time? What are you doing to evolve yourself to fulfill your soul's destiny? And when you make that decision to move to your destiny, all of the universe literally comes and supports you in that process. Okay, so the next thing that is happening is that Saturn is transiting into Pisces this year as well. It's very interesting because the Pluto-Saturn moon, there's something happening with that trinity of stellar bodies. And this October, we saw the Christic reclamation of the moon. And after that, we did this big activation, reclaiming and resetting and jumping the octave consciousness of the moon, Saturn, and Pluto. This is a recording that you can find in the ESA archives as well. But essentially, we were resetting and upgrading the octave inside of our own light body that corresponded to these stellar planetary bodies. So when we think Saturn, we think tyrannical father, control system, time. People saying there's no such thing as time because they want to escape slavery. But then there's a higher octave of the Saturn energy, which is the benevolent father. That is the energy that we're supposed to have as the base architecture of our consciousness. So for this energy, which Saturn is like structure, it's about discipline, it's about direction, stability. For this planet to be moving into Pisces, it's really interesting because I feel like this is an opportunity for the higher consciousness, etheric realms, higher dimensions, intuition, for all of these things to come into union and begin to restructure the fabric or the structures of society itself. So this is when you can maybe begin to see, so let's see what happened. Saturn went into Capricorn. No, was it Capricorn? Pisces. I can't remember. I think Saturn went into Capricorn in the beginning of 2020. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when that happened, we saw lockdowns. Oh, Aquarius, that's what happened. Saturn moved into Aquarius at the beginning of 2020. And what we saw was lockdowns because Aquarius is so much about like the flight energy as well, movement. And so when we saw that, we saw the closure of the airlines and the quarantining and all of that stuff. And so I feel like, okay, this is going to be a little bit tricky to articulate because there's two timelines or two realities, and the planets have a different impact because the realities have different physics. So one is ruled by the fallen Saturn energy. This is the false matrix, right? Still ruled by slavery, by distortion, by containment, by pressure, by that fallen masculine tyrannical king energy, right? So the planets are going to have a different impact on that reality than they are going to have on this higher Saturn consciousness, which would be the ruler of this new timeline, this higher timeline that many of us are living in. So recognizing that it's not that we want to not have any masculine energy, is that we want to have the systems that serve us. We want to have the routines that serve us, right? How many times I went through this, right? When I was waking up, having no structure. I was like, I'll go wherever, whenever I want. I'm going to go dancing all night on a weekday. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to do it. And for years, I was living in that. But then I realized that if I were to actually truly honor the creativity I have inside, then I needed my inner masculine to create space, right? To honor my inner feminine. So that meant that if I have to say I'm waking at 6 a.m. so that I can do my yoga to take care of my body, and then I'm going to give myself an hour so I can write that book, do that painting. I'm going to say Mondays at 7 a.m. this is what I'm going to do. Now in the false matrix, you might say, oh, that's so controlling. But we realize that in the higher emanation of the divine masculine energy, that is the highest expression of honor, actually. Do we really honor our inner feminine, our inner creativity, if we don't put any structure around ourselves to help ourselves become the best? Because sitting around and not having any structure will not create crystalline master human beings. If you want to learn karate, you're going to have to show up at karate class and work out every single day. And over time, you get better at it. You get better at it, right? No painter became an amazing painter because they want to be a painter but never paint. So I think that this is about restructuring the guiding forces of our structure. Are we putting structure in our lives because we're enslaving ourselves, we're trading ourselves for money because we, are scared when we're in scarcity and we feel like we want to be liked by others? Or are we putting structure around ourselves because that's a form of love? We're actually loving ourselves by saying, you know what? I believe in myself enough. I honor my creative impulses enough to support myself. And I believe in myself enough to give myself this opportunity to get better and to crystallize. So our Saturn is being guided, right, by the artistic, by the intuitive. And this is how we begin to embrace that, new masculine architecture in our system. And then another interesting transit is Jupiter is going into Taurus. And this is all like, it all works together so beautifully. Because let's see, is Jupiter into Taurus. Because, okay, so Jupiter, expansive energy, right? It is this massive gaseous planet. It's just such like a big charismatic planet. And for it to go into Taurus, I feel like this is saying like, this is a year where we can take our big ideas, and if we can somehow bring this Piscean energy into the Saturn, into the masculine, into the practical, then we have the capability to really begin to bring in this abundance from our highest joy, from our luck. And luck is really being in alignment with ourself. Okay, that's why some people, like, I feel like I'm the luckiest person in the world. How come is that, like, I just always happen to be so lucky? It's because I'm in alignment with myself. And when I'm in alignment with myself, then I know I'm in alignment with the universe, because my true self, my core essence, and the universe are in union, are one. So this is a great year for us to launch that business, right? But guided by discipline, guided by practicality. Even though we're building from a place of creativity and inspiration and intuition, still balancing and containing ourselves in that true king energy, true discipline, mastery. And I think that this is priming us for 2024. Okay, priming us. This is a year, like, the energy that I got was like seven of pentacles. I keep seeing the 7 of pentacles. So those of you that are into tarot, the 7 of pentacles is this card where there's like 7 coins, and you can see this man, he has a chisel in his hand, and he's chiseling on the 7th pentacle, and you can see that there's more raw materials behind him, and he has more to do. So it's the year where we are building and working behind the scenes. Remember, the collective is still waking up. It might not be time yet to go out there and try to wake up the whole world. It might be time to cultivate your skills so that when the world does wake up, you know exactly, you have the offerings, you have the medicine, you have the healing modalities, you have the product. Everything is perfect, and you're ready to bless the world with your creation, right? This is like a building year. And I do feel like 2023 and 2024 are both years of preparation in that way. It doesn't mean that you wait and you don't launch your business. It just means that, even when you do launch your business, you're going to have to work on it and build it up and perfect it for many years before, it really becomes a business that you can lean on. So definitely feels like a chiseling away kind of year. It is a rabbit year. I feel like when I saw that, I realized that it's going to be a year of a lot of disclosure, because that's already started to happen, right? We saw the whole Balenciaga thing last month. I wanted to make a video about it, but I was traveling. It was just really hard. But honestly, you guys, yeah, it's just a really tricky thing, because I talk a lot about how we've been going through this kind of inversion, phantom, satanic society thing for a long time. There are forces that have been perpetuating pretty satanic things on us, like pharmaceuticals, for example. Some pharmaceuticals are life-saving, but a lot of it is, literally manipulating matter, manipulating organic genetics. And the manipulation of genetics for personal gain is literally satanic, because it's in just like absolute disregard and disrespect for the perfection of creation and God. And that's why it's satanic. So we've been under, satanic interception for a long time. And it's hard to talk about this. In the intermediate level is actually when we start to spiral into the depth of this healing, because so many of us have trauma of being inside of this satanic reality, like being exposed to Britney Spears, and that distorting literally the essence of our soul, the essence of our sexual energy. People think like it's this surface level sexual thing, like, oh, it's just some sexual programming, but like it's literally evil magic on a soul essential cosmic level. So it's hard to talk about these things without going into the healing of it, and this is kind of what we provide in the Earth Star Academy. I'm just starting to build the intermediate level curriculum now, and it's intense, right? Hopefully, at the end of this curriculum, the end of this journey, we're able to support any human being through their complete liberation, healing, and restoration out of the false matrix and back into the organic, because that's what this technology is being built for. Okay, so the white rabbit energy, because in Chinese astrology is a rabbit ear, and crazy thing is 2024 is actually the dragon year, and it's just cosmic synchronicity, right? Synchronicity is just the way that the universe is orchestrated, is just this, is a reflection of the perfect physics of the organic universe, how everything's connected and everything is in union, everything is in synchrony. So it is going to be a dragon year, the year that the dragon lines fully come online. And I think that in order for that to happen, there's just going to be a lot of toiling of the dirt, right? You got to shine the light at the things, and the critters will scurry away. People are going to find out about, I think, COVID, things are going to come out about it. People are already finding out a lot about it. People are starting to think with their own brains. And as the grids continue to come online, it's just going to be, again, the mass awakening, right? The moment we've all been waiting for, the great disclosure, it's starting to happen on the rabbit ear. And we're not really going to be surprised by anything. I do want to say, like, people are so obsessed with Elon these days, and like, who cares, right? I think that this is going to keep happening, where people are going to want to sensationalize things that happen out there. Like, oh, this person did this, that person, this is happening. And there's just going to be a lot of drama. There's going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be no shortage of events to cover in 2023. I say that is the night before dawn, because for a lot of people, it's going to seem cataclysmic. Like, when you realize the world is run by evil transhumanists who want to hijack your DNA and like make sure your soul spends an eternity in hell, like, that's pretty crazy, right? How do you process that kind of thing? And so people are going to go through a dark night of the soul. And that's why I call it the night before dawn. I feel like the next couple years are going to be the night before dawn. With that, a lot of new warriors are going to wake up and find their direction. A lot of people are going to start really taking their mastery seriously and start, really Seven of Pentacles, building their skill set, building their business, building the blocks of their, golden stairway to heaven on earth. Whatever they're here to provide the world. Thinking about their 20-year plan. What is your part in this 22-year revolution? Right? The revolution is going to unfold. What is your part in it? What revolutionary process, technology, modality, thinking, content, right? What revolutionary thing are you here to bring to the world? Because we're at that time. The revolution is about to start. And this is the most exciting thing. That's why we came down here. We came down here to be part of this revolution. So the good news is it hasn't started yet. A lot of you feel like you're late. You're like, oh, did I even do my mission? Am I too late? Like, no, it hasn't started yet. We've been preparing for a very long time for this moment, for this transit. The grand scheme of the human evolutionary process. It's just a very exciting time. Very exciting time. If you know how to maximize your own creational energy and stay inside of your own flow of momentum, because it's about what you are bringing to the revolution. It's not about what Elon is doing. Elon's doing his own thing, right? People love to talk about other people who are doing things. Some people make it their whole life to talk about other people who are doing things like, oh, this person's not doing a good job and that person's not doing a good job. Well, what are you doing? And you'll find that the people that talk the most about what other people are doing are the people that are often doing the least. Don't be that person, because it's sad. That person has so much potential and genius inside of them that is not tapped. And I just think that's the greatest tragedy in any human life, is that that genius, that divine creativity inside of us are being not, honored through devotion, through crystallization, through practice. And if anyone pisses you off about how they're doing things, just do it better. That's what I say. Just do it better. Do a better job. Do a better job than me. Do a better job than everyone. It's not about competition, because it's ultimately, it benefits us all for you to be the best at what you do. Okay. So on that note, let's see here. I want to talk a little bit about the Valley Forge of the Soul. So many of you know that Valley Forge is this major battle that happened during the American Revolution. And the reason why it's important is because there was a moment in that war when the American troops realized that they were disorganized, that they did not have the skills, and they were just getting pummeled by Britain. Okay? And they were not winning the war. But they knew that they needed to win this war because people deserve freedom. And they believed in this reality where people have human rights, that they don't get taxed out the wazoo, that they can, if they had this purpose in their heart, that they can go and achieve it. Okay? So I'm bringing this in because I feel like we're at that moment in the war for human freedom, is that a lot of light workers were waking up and we're realizing we don't have the skills. We are not organized. We don't have the resources. Okay? And what happened during Valley Forge is that for a 6 to 8 months period in the frozen cold, these soldiers got organized and they got training and they got their shit together. Okay? And it was a very difficult period of time. I mean, they trained really hard. They froze their butts off for the freedom of humanity, for evolution, because they wanted to carry forward this creative spirit in their soul to make the planet better for all future generations. And this is really so inspiring, right? Who cares about the other parts? Like, we want to take the best pieces of history and learn from them. Okay, it's very important. Just to say, oh, it's all fake history and it's all the cabal and not paying any attention, you miss out on the wisdom, miss out on the stories. Take what resonates, take what's essential, and leave the rest. So, Valley Forge of the Soul. I feel like this is the next 2 years where we're like, holy crap, shit is real on this planet and we need to get skilled. We need to get organized. We need to get resources. We need to buy the farmland and, establish new farming practices. Things that we remember from our home planets, we need to establish it on the ground. That's what we're here to do, not waiting for Elon to do something. Okay? Not waiting for anyone to do anything, because you are here to do that. You're here to bring in heaven on earth. And when you realize that you don't have the resources and you don't have the skills and you don't have the abilities, it's okay, because all you have to do is go get them. You have the ability to watch videos, to study, to devote yourself to whatever it is that you're here to master. And some things. So for example, 10 years ago, I really wanted to know how to heal myself. But back then, I couldn't even imagine that I could discover, things like spiritual diseases, because I didn't even know what spiritual diseases were. But I knew that I wanted to understand healing. So I took a step in the right direction. And you have to realize that sometimes you take one step, you take another step, and then eventually the horizon comes into view. So if you don't know what your big goal is, just think, what is something you can do right now? Make small, achievable goals so that you're closer to that alignment the end of next year than you were this year. And that will be a success. That will be a W. Okay? So, series of years here. I say this is a Valley Forge of the Soul. Valley Forge of the Soul is also the dark night of the soul. Because the dark night of the soul is you're lost. You're in agony. You see all this pain in the world, and what the heck am I supposed to do about it? I can't even brush my teeth. I'm so depressed, right? And that is a moment when warriors are forged. Not like fighting warriors, but warriors of the heart, warriors of the soul that stand up for the truth and fight for the highest potential of themselves. Become the best person that they can possibly become and honor that creative spark inside of them to achieve their highest potential. So that is the Valley Forge of the soul. We're in a war, and we're realizing that the World Economic Forum is way more organized, has way more resources, and are way more evil than we are. And we're like, okay, what can we learn from this? And it's, okay, we can be organized too. We can be powerful too. Let's start to first retract all of our quanta so that we can apply our life force energy to build something that is what we're choosing. And that begins with not paying attention to things that don't matter and not putting so much effort into establishing I can't tell you if Elon's evil or not, right? Because either way, it's a belief, right? I don't know. I've had dreams, okay? I tell people about my dreams. A lot of the dreams that I've had in the Earthstar Academy, I had this 3-hour-long lucid dream with Elon where we were just hanging out. And there's a lot of stuff that happened because it was like a very hyper-realistic dream. Like 3 hours in real time passed by in that dream. I was just talking with him about the whole time, about the future, about things, about chakras, about aliens, all sorts of stuff. And I still can't tell you if he's evil or not because I just don't know, and I don't care. I don't care because I'm not evil, and I'm riding the peak of my momentum, and I'm focused on that. I see what he's doing and I'm amused by it, and I'm paying attention so I can be aware of my surroundings, but I'm not exerting energy on external things beyond that. Just being aware, not exerting, standing up for him or not standing up for him. Like if I can learn from him, great, right? There's so many things that we can learn even from the World Economic Forum. They are evil AF, but they're super smart. If you underestimate them, I mean, that's not really smart to underestimate organization and all that stuff. Okay, so evil is in the behavior, exactly. I mean, I don't know what he does. I don't know what he does. I just don't know. I've seen a lot of good stuff. Like when you listen to his talks, it sounds good. It sounds like he's thinking about the future of humanity. It sounds like he believes in this positive future for humanity, but I don't know what he does. I don't know because I don't know him. So because of that, here's the thing too, is like, if you put too much effort, and here's the reason why I don't exert, like even, what's his name? Klaus Schwab, right? He's a character. Like if I just say like, oh, he's so evil, like I'm actually giving him so much of my quanta. That's why I don't subscribe to anything I see through the black mirror. Okay? So the black mirror is what you see through the computer. The AI is always wanting to oversimplify things because this is a part of the dumbing down of humanity. They want you to think in ones and zeros, black and white. This guy is evil. This guy is good. We don't want electric cars. We do want electric cars. And it's like, it's not that simple. Nothing is that simple. In nature, you don't see simplicity like that. Like, is a jaguar hunting a gazelle evil? It's not that simple because in that process, he's actually culling populations that is helping other ecosystems. So you just don't know what you don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So I think giving space for complexity to exist and seeing the facets of all realities, this is something that activates your multidimensional consciousness. What they want is to squish your consciousness into 2D, so you're staring at a 2-dimensional screen of dead light and thinking you know what's good and what's bad, and there's only good and evil, this guy's good, that guy's bad, right? That's what they want. So be careful what you subscribe to, because ultimately the one that is inside of that consciousness is you, and you just have to realize if your beliefs are actually imprisoning your consciousness and dumbing down your consciousness, or actually giving your consciousness creativity, giving your consciousness intelligence, giving your consciousness knowledge and wisdom that you can support yourself with. And ultimately, that's the only thing that matters. This is a war on your quanta. And I love that. Makes it easy. Like, I don't have to spend time thinking about what other people are or what other people are doing, because I've retracted all of my quanta, all of my consciousness energy back into myself. And now I have 100% sovereignty over my creative energy and what I want to spend my time doing. And unfortunately, debating about people is never anything that I want to spend any time doing. So this is how I get so many things done. And I know that my 20-year plan is ambitious, but it's going to get done because I have 100% of my creation energy. And that is what we support in the Earth Star Academy, in retracting all of our consciousness quanta and building the life of our own highest embodiment, highest potential, highest creative expression for the benefit of all of creation. Okay, so that is my report for 2023. I think we've hit just about everything. And I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys and also sharing this energy report. Give me some love in the chat and let me know if this was helpful for you, if you liked this report, if you enjoyed this talk. Definitely share it with your friends. And yeah, I'm looking forward. I know that I want to do regular Starseed Mission Supports, but with the baby and everything else that I'm doing, I'm definitely going to be, just maximizing these talks. So somebody said, what about bifurcation? So we talked about bifurcation earlier on in this video, just about how there are these two realities, and what you really want to do is not get sucked into the physics. Realize that there's two different physics of realities occurring, and that the stellar bodies have a different impact on the different realities, right? So the sun and the planets changing signs, all of these things, they're going to impact the different realities differently. So they're going to trigger, just like you go through an experience, some things trigger some people and other things inspire other people. So this is what we're going to see in the masses and the collective over the next few years. But I really do believe that the bifurcation is ultimately bringing us towards unification. We're preparing for the unification. We're allowing the bifurcation to give us this time and space to truly become ourselves, to truly focus on what we're bringing to the world, what we're creating, so that we can fully be ourselves and not be influenced by the false matrix. And then in a couple of years, when the planetary grids totally come online, we're going to see this reunification, because now all of a sudden, everything that we've been working on, we're going to be sharing with the masses. The music, the healing modalities, the farming methods. And that's how heaven on earth is going to land, is going to happen. It's through that reunification, right? So bifurcation is temporary, but bifurcation is very active and strong. It's still a good time to focus on what we're doing and realize that Source is absolutely in support of people that are floating in this higher dimensional reality, overlooking, or almost, it feels like we're just sliding around the protesters, sliding through and around the lower realities. Yeah. And so, yes, I think that this is a very comforting energy, knowing that we still have 2 years to get ready. 2 years to get ready, to work on our skills, to build our skills. If you want to start a business, if you want to be a healer, if you want to do all these things, you got 2 years to build yourself, build your skills. And then, the grids are going to be in support of these kinds of methodologies reaching the masses. And I think this is ESA is built in conjunction with these timelines, right? 2024 is the end of 2024 is our goal for completing our own platform. We're going to have, our own gridwork map. It's going to kind of almost be like an Airbnb, but Ascension hub exchanges, home exchanges for grid workers. Field notes. We're going to have all sorts of stuff on our own website. It's going to take time for this to be built. It's going to be built hopefully by the end of 2024, and it's going to be ready for the next wave of awakening. So I'll be in the background chiseling away in my Seven of Pentacles, and I hope that you all come and join me. We just support each other, we help each other, we train, we work hard, and we have fun, changing the world and stuff. So I hope you come join me at the Earthstar Academy. Is www.earthstar.academy. And on that note, I will see you guys next week, because next Saturday will be the first Saturday of January, and I'll probably start uploading YouTube videos after that. Okay, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next weekend. Bye for now.